What was the message at half time, Dimma?
Look, it was probably the same. It was probably more quarter time, I think, for my point of view. You know, we're getting belted out of centre bounce. I think it was 0-8 sort of thing. So you're always starting off the back foot, and you know, then when you start that way, then the Heaney running forward causes issues as well. But you know, credit where credit's due. I thought the guys started to get the game a little bit more on our terms. I thought our first 10 minutes of quarter two was a lot better. Had an ordinary patch in the middle of the second, and then came home strong, I reckon, late. So, and then the second half, you know, we started to get some ascendancy through that central part of the ground, which is really important. So, you know, I thought we'd have stood up. You know, Noah Anderson battling a tag, did a great job, and Rowley sort of in effect as well. They stood up in critical moments, and I think one guy we sort of forget with those other two sometimes is Tuke Miller's had an incredible season. I thought he really, really stood up as well. So I was pleased with all our midfield guys. It's good.
Where does who are the calmest voices there? I guess it looked pretty dire for a while there. Like that, who's calm? Like how does that change so dramatically?
Oh, look, Noah's and his group have actually, they can think through the game and the situations, and you know, I said this previously over the course of this season that they know what needs to be done. You know, when there's change that needs to happen. Sometimes it can be a little hard because we know the game is a certain way in the middle of the ground. So we did have to make some adjustments at quarter time. You know, Grigor did a good job with that. But the leadership group have got a really good understanding about what's required at certain times. And, you know, it's not often you get behind 5 goals against the Sydney Footy Club and manage to win by 5 goals. So that's a massive achievement. You know, they're a club that we are aiming to become, if that makes sense. They're a proud, stable footy club that's always thereabouts, and you know, we're looking to become that type of club as well. And I think today was a little bit of a step forward towards that.
But the ability just to kill it off, so like you got that momentum back, well, eventually.
Yeah.
And then put it to bed.
Yeah, we did. We probably left a couple of.
Yeah.
We did a couple of little things that we'll go to, you know, school on. Like there was a couple of times we played on where we didn't really need to. The umpire was calling us pretty quick to move the ball on as well. But, you know, once again, we've done some training. We lost a lot of games last year by under a couple of kicks, which are difference makers, and we've done a lot of training with that. You know, the guys on the ground have got a pretty good understanding about what that looks like also. So it was pleasing.
And Bailey Humphrey was pretty influential there when the game was sort of in the balance still.
Yeah, I thought it was a really important game for our forward line. Like I think I said this, you know, in the pre-match, we've got effectively 5 teenagers down there. We'd be pretty close to the youngest forward line in the competition, and unfortunately last week they had all a down day at the same time, but this week they were fantastic. You know, their ability to compete in the air got better as the game progressed, but Bailey Humphrey I thought took an incredible step forward, and we can see the player we think he will become. You know, his ability to go in and out of stoppage and then push forward, and you know, he's got a really good role model in there. You're looking at a guy by the name of Isaac Heaney on the other side that's capable of doing it as well. So we're very blessed and very lucky to have him. But I thought all our young forwards did a terrific job today.
Just on that mix, I know it's not all about the goals, but on a day when King kicks 5, Jed kicks 3 or 4, Bailey kicks 4, do you have a conversation with Ethan Reid, 3 behinds, and did you talk to him about that and inaccuracy in front of goal and his role within that group?
I've kicked 12 career goals in my life. I'm not going anywhere near the goal kicking. So look what I was pumped with. And the last bit of play where he's outnumbered 1v2, he got the ball to ground and allowed Humper to get his 4th. That to me is worth its weight in gold. You know, last week we probably didn't win contests. Didn't halve contests. We lost them. This week we halved them. Like nowhere near as many MOPs this week, which is which is a real positive step. So the goals will come. You know, Will Graham's another guy today has had his lick of the ice cream a couple of weeks prior. Today, you know, there's a contest in front of our coach's box win, really important time. Just found the body of his opponent, and Butterick goes the other way, and we get a goal scoring opportunity. So they're the moments that are really important to these young guys, and they're the moments that we'll be concentrating on.
How excited are you for next week? Like playing the Premiers on their home deck, but you're 5-1, like you're in pretty good spot.
Can I have one bolter before I think about next week, if that's all right, Michael, at some stage? But look, it's great for the state, isn't it? I think, you know, I look at it and, you know, Brisbane are a side that, you know, reigning premiers, fantastic side, and just got the ability to win games, and we're starting to improve, which is really, really important. So it's a great measuring stick. You know, once again, another really proud footy club that we're looking to emulate. We've got a great taste of it today versus a side that was, you know, took a little bit of an own goal hit, you know, with Roosie making some comments about the way they play and all that sort of stuff. So we knew they were going to come out firing. Sorry, that's my bad. But next week we get a really important challenge against a side that we haven't done particularly well against. So we're looking forward to it.
Just on Ben King, the forward line, like obviously 5 today, he's like 23-7 for the year so far. Like the Suns probably haven't had a dominant key forward since the likes of Tom Lynch, who you obviously know quite well in Richmond.
Yeah.
What's his development been like, and is he starting to become that real figurehead that an AFL club needs to kind of push on?
Yeah, I think so. Look, and you know, we've got to remember he hasn't had a pre-season. This is his first pre-season, I think, for 3 years. So it is tough, you know, when you're coming from that far back. And what I will give credit to is, you know, Brad Miller's done a hell of a lot of work with him one-on-one, with all those boys, to be honest. And so a lot of the plaudits, you know, Ben has made some incredible inroads, but some great coaching by our assistant coaches as well, which has been really important. So, you know, I'm pleased for him. He's such a great player. He's really well loved within our organisation, and you know, he's getting some reward as well. But a lot of those stuff stem from our players further up the ground. You know, our backs getting the ball, you know, to him in good places, which is really important. And you know, those guys did a terrific job as well.
Just on Witsy, you sort of said it many times just how maybe underrated he is around the traps, but today he's running back and pulling and distributing like a midfielder. Like how big was he earlier?
Yeah,
You know, like,
was getting a bit carried away towards the end there with his handball, and we're handballing to the ruckman and all that sort of stuff. But look, he was well beaten, I thought, early quarter one, but he's a proud individual. You know, him and Brodie always have some great contests, and then, you know, he started to get to work, and all of a sudden the game looked completely different. So, you know, I was really proud of his performance. As I said previously, he's sort of reflective of the side. You know, at certain stages last year, we probably wouldn't have got that response, but he's really, I shouldn't say he's grown up, but he's got a great understanding of what he needs to change, and, you know, him and his midfield got to work.
I mean, there was an incident, I don't know if you heard it because of the umpire mics, but in the commentary booth, Nick Blakey was given a free kick on Bodie Hewland, and the 50-metre penalty was paid quite quickly after it. The umpires seemed to react straight away to Mac Andrew and something he said. Now, we talked all last week about his aggression and the way he carries himself, but is there an element of the club needing to monitor the way he's perceived by officials with the way he carries himself on the ground? Because it seemed like quite a quick response from the umpire.
Yeah, look, the umpires deserve respect. We understand that. And look, it's a volatile game, so players will get caught up in it. And let's take Mac out of it. We'll have the conversation, because 50s are killers as well. And, you know, we've got a bit of a meat tray policy, so whoever gave away the 50 will be up for the meat tray. But we've got to understand that the umpires deserve our respect. It is an incredibly hard game to umpire. We understand that. And the players are going to lash out in frustration at times. You know, we saw, you know, another great player in Horn Francis, you know, get a similar sort of response. So, you know, they're great players for a reason. They push the envelope. But, you know, once again, I was really happy with Mac's game today.